Go. Well, it's good
Okay.
afternoon, Michelle Florendo. Thank you for joining us at Yellowtail.
Yes. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Look, Michelle, I was just sharing with you how I stumbled across your podcast. And the reason I wanted to get you on, your podcast is called Ask a Decision Engineer. And, I was just sharing how fascinated I was about your topics across the board. So I would love you to share all about your podcast. What do we need to know?
Okay. So it's called Ask a Decision Engineer, not for decision engineers, because it really is for anyone who has questions about decision making. And so my mission is to help teach people how to make big decisions with less stress and more clarity. But don't get it twisted. Even though my background is as a decision engineer, yes, that is the thing. Most people have not heard of it. It's okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do any math, but really, I love using the podcast as a way to really help people in the midst of big decisions.
And it's decisions affect everyone. We stress
Right.
over decisions. I was just sharing with you about one of my favorite episodes of yours is about parents making decisions. So it's,
Hmm.
and look, Michelle, I'm going to be honest. I was one of those people that had to Google what does a decision engineer do because,
That's
like
fine. You're not
and
alone.
I'm being honest, and I know there'll be plenty of people listening who, we're not engineers or we haven't been exposed, but super interesting podcast. Michelle, I'd love you to share a bit about you, your career, and then what inspired you to start the podcast?
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I am a decision engineer and an executive coach. What that means is that I'm often coaching leaders, but also just it's funny because these leaders will bring all parts of their life to our conversations because they can. But this decision engineering piece, really, I realized, I did my undergraduate studies in university in decision engineering, and that was my first time discovering there's an entire field dedicated to how to make decisions better. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know that
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And so, part of what I'm passionate about is bringing some of those learnings to a broader audience. And so, really, the podcast, it's funny because as I've been doing this work for the past 15 years, a lot of people have asked me, oh, you should write a book. Do you want to write a book? And I guess now it's 6 years ago, right before this podcast became an idea, I was telling my friend, oh, yeah, people say I should write a book. I was pregnant with my second child at the time. And my friend, who's also an engineer, said, that's the worst goal ever for someone who doesn't like writing and is about to have their second child.
Yeah.
Like, what
We'll
is
go
it that you
there.
love doing,
Yeah,
even when you're tired?
yeah,
What is it that will get you, lit up even when you're absolutely exhausted? And I told him, I love answering questions about big, tangled decisions. And so he said, okay, so just do that for people and record it and turn it into a podcast. And I said, who would listen to that or who would agree to that? And he said, you wouldn't know if you don't try. So the
yeah,
podcast started on a dare, basically.
yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I'm listening from Australia, and I know now others will listen across the world. You're so good at this because where do you get your guests? Like, where are they in your network, your guests? There's such a diverse.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there are people in my network, sometimes there are people who get referred to me and are facing a decision that I think, is a type of decision that a lot of people might face. And so the podcast is really interesting because there's a few different seasons and they take different forms. Some seasons take the form of, as a listener, you get to listen in to me coaching someone through a tangled decision that they're facing. And it could be a professional one, it might be a personal one. We've talked about elder care, we've talked about end of life planning, we've talked about business decisions for small business owners. So if you like listening in, there's
Yes.
that aspect of the podcast. If you are facing an actual decision, listen to season 2. It's
Yeah.
basically my teaching season, and I will give you all of the tips to help walk you through how you can untangle your own decision. If you have feelings or have feelings about your feelings, your emotions in decision making, season 3 is all about the intersection of emotions and decisions because your emotions are not enemies. They can actually be useful pieces of data that
Yep.
you can follow into the process. And then season 4 is all a bunch of like colleagues and friends I have in the space of decision science, decision making. And so if you want to hear a bunch of other voices and their takes on
Yeah.
decision making, go to season 4.
Well, that just gives us such a great overview to go through the seasons. There's a lot of curiosity, even still from me, and I've listened to many episodes. It's, decision making is just, it's complex, but it
Mhm.
doesn't, I guess your teaching helps to break it down and
Yeah, it
you
doesn't
feel
have to
comfortable about,
be,
yeah.
right? Like, there are some very simple frameworks that
Yeah.
people can use to break these big, complex decisions into manageable parts. And that's really what I try to accomplish in the podcast.
Yeah, you do so well. Michelle, tell us if we're watching, if we're curious about how we connect with you. I will put your socials or any ways we can connect with you in the show notes. But point us in the direction. Where do we find you in the podcast?
Yeah, so you can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Again, it's called Ask a Decision Engineer. But if you want to learn more about me and connect with me, you can go to poweredbydecisions.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, like you did.
LinkedIn. We love LinkedIn. It's such a good space to find people. I think that's how
Yeah.
I reached out to you, Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to keep listening. It's super interesting. Thank you for sharing with Yellow Shelf.
All right. Thank you for having me. Take
Cheers.
care.